أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما والحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. أما بعد، يروي الإمام الترمذي في جامعه بسند حسن عن عبد الله بن بسر رضي الله تعالى عنه وارضاه قال أن رجلا قال: يا رسول الله، إن شرائع الإسلام قد كثرت علي فأخبرني بشيء أتشبث به. Brothers and sisters, today's hadith is narrated in the collection of the Imam Tirmidhi with a reasonable authenticity in terms of its chain of narration. And it's the companion, his name is who narrated is Abdullah bin Busr, and he was one of the younger companions at the time. So he's witnessing a very short conversation between a man that's not mentioned by name in the hadith and the Prophet ﷺ. So this man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, "O Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, O Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ﷺ. The acts of worship and the legislated Islamic laws have become too much for me. It's probably a simple man, and he doesn't want, and someone who needs a concise and a short advice so he can follow, and that's it, right?" So he said, and of course here he's talking about the non-obligatory acts of worship. He's not talking about salat and siyam and these things that should be done. He's talking about other things, because the Prophet ﷺ, every time he spoke of something, you always have you would be under the impression that this is the most important thing in religion. For instance, when he talks about reciting the Quran, you would say there's nothing better than that. When he talks about spending money and feeding the poor, you would think there's nothing better than that. It's always every single act of worship, whether it was an obligatory or an optional, it's mentioned with reverence and with dignity by the Prophet ﷺ. So this man is confused. There's multiple things, and he would like something for him to stick to. And that's it for the rest of his life. So he said, this is too much for me. Teach me something that I will stick to. So the ﷺ understood that this man wants something concise, short, and sweet, and you can stick to. And this advice, and then the ﷺ gave him an advice, of course, through him to us. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يزال لسانك رطبا من ذكر الله. That make sure that your tongue is always moist. That's the exact translation, with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a metaphor. It means that remember and mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. And this is a characteristic of our deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in multiple verses. I recited a couple, and there's many verses. Maybe every few pages in the Quran there's udhkurullah or similar wording. And at the end of Surah Ali Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, that indeed in the creation of the heavens and the earth. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, and the succession of days and night, لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That indeed there are magnificent signs for those who have the intellect, أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. And the ayah after that, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you their description. الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا, that those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قِيَامًا, standing, وَقُعُودًا, and sitting, وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ, while they were sleeping, right? And this is from this, Mujahid, one of the famous scholars, says that you will not become a real remember like a dhakir, a person who remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until you do this. That you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala standing in every aspect of your life, in every situation you're in, while you're standing, sitting, and in bed. And the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be done in many forms. Number one, you can do takbir, you can do tahleel, which is saying la ilaha illallah. You can do tahmeed, alhamdulillah. Of course, tilawat al-Quran, the reading the Quran is dhikr. Mentioning the Prophet ﷺ and sending blessings, prayers and blessings to the Prophet ﷺ, saying Allahumma salli ala Muhammad sirra, in any form. There's thousands of forms, it's also considered as a remembrance because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to do it. It's also an act of worship. And I will end with this. One of the scholars says that the heart of the human being will get rusty with time. And the way to polish it is by doing remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, dhikr has, it's an act of worship that has its own taste, its own flavor. Nothing, every act of, you read the Quran, you feel a different flavor. Remembering of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but any form has a completely different taste to it, and the way you savor it, the way you feel it, makes you feel completely different. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered us to وَذْكُرُ اللَّهَ ذِكْرًا كَثِيرًا. So it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not really want us to do it a lot as opposed to doing it continuously. This is one of the things that also a lot of people misunderstand. It's not really you sit one night and you don't sleep all night, and you're better to do a little bit. For instance, La ilaha illallah 10 times after every prayer for the rest of your life, way better than doing it one night for the whole night, even if it was Laylatul Qadr. But continuity is the key. So I hope this was a benefit. يروي الإمام الترمذي في جامعه بسند حسن عن عبد الله بن بسر رضي الله تعالى عنه وارضاه أن رجلا قال يا رسول الله إن شرائع الإسلام قد كثرت علي فأخبرني بشيء أتشبث به. قال لا يزال لسانك رطبا من ذكر الله. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك لا إله